Hi, everyone. So I think swimming is one of the best sports you can ever experience because the minute you dive into the pool, it becomes your own world. And for the hour of practice, it's between you and your thoughts. And sometimes these thoughts can literally be life-changing. So in 2010, I was training with the AUB varsity team, swimming varsity team, and we were always measuring our heart rate. And I wondered, why are we doing it manually? It's 2010, and we have all of these technologies that work for runners or bikers. And so I took this idea, and I applied to the Stars of Science competition. No, sorry about that. It should start. So this is the recap video of my participation in Stars of Science. It's in Arabic, but I'll be speaking at the same time so that I can give you a brief of what's happening.
فكرة بسيطة طلعت لي أنا وعم بتمرن رياضتي المفضلة اللي هي سباحة. كنت عايزة جوجلز بيقيسوا نبض القلب. فتشت على هيك برودكت بس ما لقيت. فقررت وقت شفت إعلان نجوم العلوم أقدم فكرتي للجوري. هي جوجلز للسباحة العوينات يعني اللي بيقدروا يقيسوا
I had no idea it was on TV. This is why I worked together. I would have picked something more classic.
أنا أقدر أعمل برودكت كله إلكترونيكس والميجو تبعي ميكانيكال. بس بيني وبين حالي كنت عارفة إنه إذا بدي فيي.
So the first prototype, it was just a sensor on the temporal artery that proves that we can actually get a pulse from here. But the problem is that to prove the concept, I had to connect it to a computer, which is not a very friendly consumer product. So I had to transfer all of this knowledge from the computer into a small electronic board. This was the engineering phase. Here's the designer telling me that it should be a bit more friendly.
عم نرجع نغير السيركت. Everything is so slow. I'm not gonna have the time to finish.
Here's me complaining about how slow electronics is. So the whole competition was a 6-week competition, and we had to build the product from A to Z in that 6-week framework. So this is how the circuit ended up looking like, which, as you can see, it's not that small, but it's smaller than a computer. And next phase was the design phase. So I had to fit in this circuit into an actual casing that was waterproof, and this was another challenge. Because how do you make something that's almost scotch taped into a waterproof product? And so this is how it ended up looking like. It's pretty big, but I used to use the word modern when I described it, but it does not look that modern. And the final stage of the competition was actually to take that product and to build a business plan around it and to build a marketing plan around it and the whole branding. So the product was first called Butterflye, but now we called it Instabeat. And as you can see from the video, I look very tired and I'm speaking with a really low voice. And during 6 weeks, it was almost a nightmare to be able to take this idea and turn it into an actual working prototype. Because in this competition, we've had an unlimited access to every single resource we can possibly dream of. So all of the professors in the university, all of the money we ever needed, every prototyping machine we wanted. And still, it was so hard to be able to get that idea into a product. And I realized that that my idea of building a product was completely wrong because I thought that heart rate monitor exists and swimming goggles exist, so it must be really easy to blend them both into one product, but that wasn't the case. And so I came back to Lebanon. I was so tired of this competition. I took a job in another company, and I was convinced that this was one really nice project and I needed to move on. But then the next week, I got a call from one of the investors in Lebanon that tells me, we want to invest in your company. And I'm thinking that this guy is completely insane. I don't even want to hear about this product. And why does he want to invest in my company? But then it started growing on me, and I started realizing that maybe there is something to it. And I remember very well, one of my very good friends and mentors told me, do you want to spend the rest of your life in an office working on air conditioning? And it was very funny because she was using it as a random example, but I was literally working in air conditioning. And so I realized that I had to do something about it. And so this was at the press conference when Beritak announced their investment in my company. And so it was very fancy. There was a minister that was there. And, I felt like in Alexander's talk, he felt that here in the region, starting up is a success. So I almost felt like a successful person. So I was on this podium. It was very fancy. And then I realized that the next logical step was to file for a patent, so that's what I did. I called up many lawyers, and it took a while to find a lawyer, not in Lebanon, obviously, but in the US who can help me file a patent. And so we did that, and after that, the logical step was to go through hiring. And so I went to AUB where I studied, and I knew there were a billion people there, but that turned out to be extremely difficult because the university here in Lebanon, but also in the Arab region, do not train people to be a researcher, and they do not train people to take products and to put them into market. People are trained to be consultants, to be air conditioning engineers. And so I realized that investors and press and all of the hype of entrepreneurship do not mean anything if you do not have people on your team who can actually build your product and take it to market. And so this is when I decided that I needed to get out of my comfort zone and start looking around me, and I started looking in my network. And so I literally reached out to every single person I've ever met in my entire life in order to point me to a direction, to hire an engineer and a designer. And these things seem very easy, but the ecosystem is literally not set up for hardware companies. And so after 8 months of research, I actually built a team that's quite international. So we have the design team in Lebanon, we have the engineering team in France and in the Netherlands and in the UK, and all of our advisors are in the US. And for prototyping, funnily enough, we do everything online. So we finish the design, we send it to a website, the website prototypes it and ships it back to us. And so the very funny conclusion I got to is that in the Middle East, if you want to build a physical product, it needs to be virtual. There is no other option. Yeah, funnily enough. And so we built 9 different versions of the prototype. Once I found these people, things went very, very fast. So in a year and a half, we were able to iterate 3 mainstream directions for the product and 9 different iterations. And so in 2010, that's the prototype you saw in Stars of Science. It was 170 grams, it was very bulky, it was almost not waterproof, and the swimmers almost drowned when they wore it. And then we got to a model that was 50% lighter in 2011, and it was smaller, it was waterproof, it looked nicer, but there was a main problem in the user-friendliness of it. So we completely shifted directions again, and today, this is the final model that you see. It's very sleek, it mounts on any type of swimming goggles. The heart rate reading is seamless, it's from the temples, and the small lip you see on the front of the goggles is actually a color-changing lens, so that you're able to see how your heart rate is changing during your training in real time. And so this is the final product we got to. We've defined the materials, we've defined everything. So this was last April. And we felt we were market ready. And so we were studying the products around us. When I say around us, it's in the US, it's not in Lebanon. But we were studying the products around us to see what was the trend and how were people taking the actual final prototype to market, what we thought was final back then. And we realized that everyone was launching their hardware startup on crowdfunding platforms. And so we thought that the logical next step for us was to go through crowdfunding. And so we did so. And we launched the product on Indiegogo.
Instabeat came from a need I personally felt as a swimmer. I used to train competitively for over 15 years. And for every part of our workout, there was a certain heart rate we needed to reach in order to make sure we were getting the most out of our workout. Runners and bikers had all these cool devices to monitor their workout, but those simply won't work for swimming. This is why we created Instabeat. Instabeat is a heads-up display monitor that mounts on the straps of any swimming goggles. It reads the heart rate from the temporal artery, stores it, and displays it in real time on your lenses through a color code. Blue if in the fat-burning zone, green if in the fitness zone, and red if in the maximum performance zone. More than just heart rate, Instabeat's pretty powerful. It calculates the calories you burn, the number of laps you swim, and your breathing pattern. And when you're done with your training, you sync your data to the dashboard, and you can see how you've progressed over time and whether you've reached your training and your fitness goals. We have been working for over a year now on transforming the design from a bulky 2-case module to a seamless unit that is adaptable to any swimming goggles.
Designing Instabeat, we wanted a device that would appeal to all swimmers, fit well on all different head shapes and sizes, and be compatible with different goggle brands. The design had to be completely waterproof, unobtrusive, durable, lightweight, and hydrodynamic.
When your head is in the water, you're disconnected from the outside world, and there's no way to know if you're reaching your training goals. But when you have a device that's constantly giving you feedback, it is changing the entire swimming experience. And this is exactly our challenge, to make swimming a social competitive sport. We've won many competitions, we got our seed funding, and now we've picked our manufacturing facilities, and we need your help to make it. Instabeat is going to change the way we swim. Be part of it.
And so we thought it was a pretty fancy video at that time. I can probably write 1,000 reasons why it's not that fancy. But we thought it was pretty fancy, and we've seen like other crowdfunding campaigns being shared all over the internet and going viral. And I mean, in the first few days, it wasn't that bad, but it wasn't picking up as fast as we thought we would. And we were wondering why. And after a few days, we realized that things do not work the same way in the Middle East. Like, people are not going to share your video unless you're like some Korean guy wearing yellow pants. They're not going to share the technology, and they're probably going to think you're begging for money through the crowdfunding campaign. And so we needed to change strategies from day 5 in order to be able to complete the 60-day campaign and reach our goal. And so what we did is started reaching out to the people that actually contributed to our campaign early on. And we were asking these people, why aren't you sharing our campaign? We were looking at Facebook, we were looking at Twitter, and we realized that no one was sharing our campaign. And these swimmers told us that we are sharing your campaign. We're sharing it on the Ask Masters Swimming Forum, we're sharing it on our blog. And we realized we had understood the community interaction really wrong. And we needed to start talking to the swimmers who knew the swimmer who knew the swimmer. And it's actually a very tight community of people who trusted each other and who didn't care about a feature in TechCrunch and Engadget. They cared about what other bloggers were writing and how other bloggers were swimming. And so in order to get in that circle of trust, it was very, very hard. And this is why we started creating a blog of our own, where we would feature these swimmers that were our early backers, our early adopters, and give them the space in order to shine and in order to share their experiences. And I can tell you, the minute that we started acknowledging what these people were doing and how they were training, it went viral in the swimming community, and people started picking up the product, and we were able to sell over 1,000 products in 47 countries. So we realized that the dynamics of our community were so much different than when we thought, and we were wondering, why didn't we do this the day we started the campaign or the day we actually started thinking about the product? And so if there's one lesson that I take from this crowdfunding campaign, is that the day you start thinking about an idea, it's the day you need to start engaging your community and understanding how it works. And so we needed to actually deliver a product to these people that backed us. And so we started looking also outside of our network in order to work with a manufacturing firm. And we found one that had design agencies in Cupertino with manufacturing facilities in China. And that's when hell came to us, because China is 5 hours ahead of us, and the US is 10 hours after us. And so our actual work day started at 6 p.m. once we finished our own work. And so it became like a non-stop nightmare. Like every day at 6, we had a meeting with these manufacturers up until 2, 3 a.m. And then we had a few hours of sleep to wake up and to actually deal with China. And these are pictures of us working with the US team and us in our offices. And you can see in lots of these pictures, it looks like we've completely lost our minds, because we actually did. So, and I mean, yeah, we look weird. And here, like, there's this picture in the top. It's the first time our device lit up, and we were so happy about it. We took a picture on Skype. I mean, it's a bit ridiculous, but it was such an enlightening moment. And then also, I mean, to get to this point where you're so close to mass production, you cannot use the tools that are available, at least on the Lebanese market. So these 3D printers that you buy for $2,000, they're very good for prototyping the idea when it first comes out. But when you want to test the quality of your surfacing, you cannot use those. And so we started to create our own stuff. We started to create our own mold to inject the silicone into it with like medical needles. And we started doing weird experiments to test the waterproofing. And so we really went out of our way to get to the place where we are today. And I think that the entire team stretched themselves so much, because it really has been a non-stop journey for the last 6 months in order to get to mass production. And the pace of innovation today has become so fast with the 3D printers and the 3D scanners and all of these fast prototyping tools where you can just plug into your computer and program anything in seconds. And when you live in a part of the world where you don't have most of these tools and you want to sell into a global market and be competitive in that global market, you need to adapt really, really fast, no matter what that is. And I mean, it's worked really well for us because last week we finished all of the design for manufacturing and we were able to launch our production. And the plan is to be able to ship these products out in the next 6 weeks. And so more than just shipping to these early adopters, it's also we want to be on the global market. So we've been talking to so many distributors out there in order to ship our product in the US, in Australia, in New Zealand, so all over the globe. And a funny thing happened when I was talking to one of the distributors. He was asking me whether I was still swimming every morning. And I paused and I got really angry because I couldn't remember when was the last time I swam because we were so busy and not sleeping that I wasn't swimming anymore. And to me, like, I got really angry. And then my friend told me I needed to get over myself because it's a business and it's not a fun thing that I'm doing. But the point is that we've been driving ourselves crazy in order to create this device that would help swimmers, and we're not even helping ourselves as swimmers, so it didn't really make sense. And I think the point two, which is my 2 cents, is that no matter what you do, and if you want to build a team of people around you that are doing something global and that are trying to break barriers and to be on a global scale, you always need to be true to yourself, to what you believe in, and to have a really, to be stubborn about your mission, because that's the only thing that will drive the team forward and that's going to allow you to be able to go over all these factors and deliver a worldwide product. Thank you.